Hello, welcome back to the Slumber Party podcast where my goal is not to hit my mic today. Can I do it? My name is Amanda Jewson. I have my co-host here, Liza Ramnarine. Welcome, Liza.
Hello. Thanks.
Hello. I'm super pumped to be here today. And the other thing that we're going to pray for is my internet not to crap out halfway through this podcast because I can't. We're going to talk about that in a second. But I'm so excited about our guest today. She is coming all the way from downtown Toronto. We have BBS consultant and registered social worker, Masters of Social Work, Diana Gonzalez.
Hi.
Welcome, Diana.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. Guys, can I share something with you? Last night, okay, so I don't know if you guys know this. I think, Lisa, you have older kids, you might know this. But like in YouTube kid world, when they're making like videos or they're making like kids are making videos for other kids, they have this concept of what a Karen is. And so a Karen is like someone who goes to a store and asks for the manager. And so my kids will be like, oh, you're a Karen. And like they call each other a Karen or they pretend to be a Karen. Like Winnie has drawn a picture of a Karen. And I'm like, this is a very in-depth thing, but fine. I'm just going to let it go. Yeah. But last night, I was like, I don't think I was a Karen, but I want to run past what happened, and then you can tell me if I was a Karen.
We'll be the judge of that.
You will be the judge of that. Thank you. Email me at amanda@babysbestsleep.com to let me know if I was a Karen. Anyway, so this is what happened. Our internet has been disconnecting. Like the signal goes out several times throughout the day. So it started off as every day at 9 o'clock, it would drop out for 2 minutes and then come on. And I was like, all right, who cares? It's just a thing. This is literally at this point 4 months ago. And then I told my husband, and like he travels half the time. He's like, I don't really notice it. And then one day he's like, yeah, I do notice that it goes down at 9. And then it was going at like 9 and 10. And then it was going down at like 9, 10, 12. And we're not talking about like, this is kind of like torture because it's not enough for it to be so significant. We're not talking hours and hours of outages. This is just a 2 to 5 minute outage, but several times a day. And now it is happening almost like on the hour. Nonstop. We have had 4 motherfucking technicians to my house. I'm so angry over the past 4 months of us dealing with this issue. Someone comes and they're like, yeah, we don't know. We just rewired your thing. They replaced our modem and they leave. No one has any answers. And then they're like, yep, you're done. So then we're like, okay. So the last time this technician came last Friday, apparently rewired every single wire going into our house. It is still happening.
No.
Last night, I have a Real Housewives call I've mentioned on this podcast several times. I don't think I've missed it in 2 years. I had to miss it because my internet went out twice within an hour. It also impacts our TV. So Brad is trying to watch football and now it's like crapped out twice.
Yeah.
I fucking lost it. And I'm sorry, this is an explicit episode. Hide your children because I'm fucking swearing. So I like start them young. Don't shock them. Don't shock them in who you are. So I like got on the phone at 10:30 p.m. and I called Rogers and I was like, hi, tech support. I'm like, this is not your fault, but I need to speak to a manager now. I will not be talking to you about this. Yes. And I was like, the moment I said it, I was like, this is tough for me to say.
Oh, I'm nice.
I mean, I know, and I'm such a nice person. I've worked in customer service in one way or another my entire life, but I was so furious. We've been paying full price for our internet for 4 months. It's only getting worse. You're putting me on the phone with someone who fucking knows what they're doing. And so this guy got on the phone and he's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to send a senior consultant now. And I was like, you haven't sent me a senior consultant yet? And he's like, no, not yet. And I was like, I want the person to fix this when they are here. And then you're going to go back and give me money back for every single goddamn time, because now it's starting to impact my bottom line. I am on discovery calls with clients and it craps out. I've moved all my discovery calls to phone because I can't. Anyway,
I really thought your bottom line was going to be that it impacted your Real Housewives. And
well, I mean,
that is a
lunch
line.
time you freaked out. Exactly.
That is a line.
We're talking about the season finale of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
I did not hear you lose it after the first bunch of times it happened.
Yeah.
Third part reunion. Third part. I still don't know what fucking happened.
Kathy was there.
I know. So look. Am I Karen?
Yes.
I'm a Karen?
No.
To that person you are. To that person you are.
I know.
You know?
To that person I am. I am.
Yes.
That's why it is honestly torturing me.
But you're not a legal definition of Karen.
I don't think so, because you were reasonable for 4 months. And then you weren't. And I think that qualifies you as not technically a Karen. Okay. But it depends on who you ask. Yeah. So if you're going to ask the guy that you said you haven't sent a senior consultant yet, he's probably going to say you're a Karen.
But here's the thing. He sees all the people that have come to me. This is the fourth guy coming to me. So you think like the first guy, I mean, I would send the second guy being like, the third guy, it was not a senior consultant. You don't want to hear from me. Anyway,
did it affect your sleep?
I have to think about this because I did have strange dreams. And then my daughter came in at 2:00 in the morning last night. So listen to this, guys. You're all here listening to this stuff about baby stuff. And we are going to talk to Deanna about her. I swear to God. But
her internet issues?
Yeah. So my daughter came in. So she has, you think you have baby problems now. So the issue is that my daughter is losing her front tooth and it's making her squeamish. But what's confusing to me about it is that she's lost her 2 bottom teeth. No problem. That's been fine. Her top teeth are like freaking her out. And literally this tooth is like, I'm sorry, this is gross. It's hanging out of her mouth. And she's like, I don't know. And so she wakes up in the morning and she's like, it's bleeding. And we're like, take it out. Take it out of your mouth. Stop talking to us about this. 2:00 in the morning. I went pee and it's bleeding. I'm like, Nora. Anyway, so
those are my 2 worst nightmares, actually. Having no internet and having my teeth out.
Yeah.
There you go.
Not fitting you. Probably. Well,
speaking of nightmares and bringing people sweet dreams, Deanna, you are. Do you like that transition? I'm pretty proud of that one.
That was pretty smooth. Pretty smooth. Pretty smooth.
I'm actually sorry. I'm having a moment where I'm looking at Liza, who spelled her name on the screen phonetically Leeza. And this is something that you have to do as well, because you want to look at Liza's name and say Liza, and you want to look at your name and say Diana, but it's Deanna and Liza.
That's right.
I was very happy to see that she was spelling it phonetically too. I was like, yes, join the team.
I got it from you. I saw you do that somewhere and I was like, yes, I have to do that too.
Yes. And now I do it everywhere. I've included it on everything.
Yeah.
And it makes me feel so much better when my clients go, oh, it's Deanna. And I'm like, yes, that is actually me. Diana, I don't know who it is.
Diana is not
like, I will reply.
Yeah.
And I will obviously be cordial about it, but it just hits differently when they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, Diana," and I'm like, "Oh,
Hey,
that is actually me."
I knew how to say your name for a long time, but my brain was fighting me on it. So, like, I
Mhm.
knew
Yes.
that it was Deanna, and then I'd look at Diana, and then I'd be like,
Mhm.
Diana, Diana. I know it. I knew it. But my
When
brain
you
was like,
started,
don't.
Deanna,
Yeah.
Amanda said, it's Deanna, okay? It's not Diana. It's like, okay. Got
Yes.
it.
Thank
It's
you.
Deanna. Or I'm often like curious what our clients think when they will be like, oh, I looked at Deanna on your web or Diana on your website, and I'll be like, yeah, Deanna. And then I'm like, do they think I can't read, or like, do they think I'm like not well? Because it is spelled Diana. Well,
Yes.
thank you for coming today. I
Thank you for
like
having
this is
me.
a long time coming, but you joined the team in May, and then we were supposed to record, and then I feel like the
I got
summer
COVID.
happened. Yes, you got COVID.
That's
That's
what
what it
happened. Yeah.
was.
And I didn't know it was
Yes.
COVID, so I just reached out and I was like, I feel like absolute garbage and we can't do this.
You were
And
like, I
then we
have a
tested positive.
migraine.
Yes, that's what I thought it
Yes.
was. A
Yeah.
migraine that lasted about 4 days. And I thought, why am I so weak? I get migraines all the time. I'm sure what is going on with me? And so then getting the positive, you do have COVID, was like, yes, I knew I wasn't this weak. It was COVID this whole time.
Mhm.
That's
So,
exactly what happened. And then I feel like the summer happened, which just kind of flew by. We were actually talking about it before the podcast. But we love to do these episodes with our consultants so folks can get a sense of who you are. And I think, hiring your sleep consultant is kind of like dating. Like you want to stalk their profile a little bit. You want to like find out what they're working, what their LinkedIn says. Like if you can get their shoe size, great. These are all things that are okay.
yes. Yes.
But yeah, so and we generally like to send these episodes along just so folks can get to know their consultant. And so tell us a little bit about you and who you are and what you do.
Well, no pressure at all. This is me. So the reason, okay, I should start with this. The reason why it's spelled Diana, it's because I am from Colombia, and in Spanish, our I is E, so like it sounds Diana.
Okay.
So that is the reason why.
Okay.
And I have a sweet, almost 4-year-old. And when she went, I know, can you believe it? And when she went through her 4-month sleep regression, I thought I was going to die. And then I didn't know, nobody told me about it. I had no idea what was happening. Suddenly, she's not sleeping, I'm not sleeping, and we're both crying all day. And so I reached out to Amanda. She kind of guided me a little bit. And that's when I decided, you know what, this is something that changed my life. So I want to try to coach other parents and help them through that. So that was 4 years ago. A lot happened in between, including a pandemic. I went back to school, got my master's, and I became a therapist, which surprise to me, because there were two things I said I was never going to do. One of them being private practice, and the other one was being running my own business. And here I am doing both of them and actually really liking it. So never say never. Okay.
Every social
Me,
worker says it. Every social worker says they're never going to do private practice.
Yes.
Everyone. And then they do.
Okay. But you want to know how it started? Because I was working at a call center for 211. That's what I did right after school. And it was one of those situations where I would be on the phone and they'd be like, Diana, your calls are really long. And I'm like, but these people are in crisis. They need someone to talk to. And they'll be like, but we're not that service. That's not what we do. And I started to realize little by little how much I really enjoy talking to people and how much I really enjoy being able to provide solutions and help make life a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Then Amanda started her certification course, and I said, let's just do it. This is what I want to do. And the rest is kind of history. I think I was bombarding Amanda a lot. Every time that she would be like, I'm hiring somebody, I'd be like, okay, I want to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it. And then I did that certification, and at the end of it, she was like, so what are your plans? And I was like, I manifested this. I did it, and it's happening. So it all came full circle. It only took a while. And
Well,
here we are.
And I always say, like, when you applied previously, you were this super qualified person. And I was like, I want to make sure that I have all of the systems in place to support her if she were to ever come. And I also don't want to limit anyone, right? Like, especially in the certification program, people are generally taking it to kind of run their own things. And so I often say, like, it's been really helpful because we've had to kind of pull from the certification a couple of times, that I have this like pool of people where I'm like, hey, I know where you did your training. It was pretty good. So I'm going to pull from there. But I never want people to feel like obligated, and there's not that obligation. So when there was this need, folks may not know this, but Deanna is a MSW, and essentially what we do with folks is social work. Social work has a really broad definition of helping people. And when we actually like go through what we do with folks, it's like essentially the same thing. It's a case conceptualization. It's an intake assessment. It's providing various distress tolerance strategies to our clients. It's providing that psychoeducation on attachment. Like, we really run here anyway a pretty considerable evidence-based practice that lends itself really nicely to like the therapy realm. So for those who are already kind of there, it really complements what they're already doing. And so people would reach out and be like, hey, are your services covered by blah, blah, blah? And I was like, man, there's this real need of people who can't afford a sleep consultant, or there's no way they're doing it unless they have coverage. Let's make sure those people are covered too. So we hired, I shouldn't say hired because they're contractors and they kind of do their own thing, but Deanna and Zara joined the team. And Zara will also be on the podcast later on. They provide that social work element for our clients who need it. And it's been really, really great. And it was really cool because we were asked recently to kind of break down like the therapeutic models that we have to provide. And I was like, oh my God, we're so good.
Yeah. That was really cool. That part was very, reassuring, I guess, in a way. Like, we know what we're doing, but when you're forced to put it into paper and be like, this is exactly how it works, it's like, wow, no, we're really doing it.
Totally. I just want to like take a break to remind everyone, if you can hear dishes and you can hear cooking.
Yeah.
Every time.
I was going to text you.
Fucking time. Every time I'm recording a podcast, he's got to come down and do things. Like, I can't.
He's got to seduce you with dish noises.
Yes.
Well,
that is flirting in my house.
Yeah, and mine. I don't cook. I've said this, I surround myself fully and completely with people who can cook.
With people who love to cook.
Yeah, it's the best thing.
Yeah.
Deanna, and people love you. They love working with you. And one of our favorite things is like, you have a no nonsense approach to you that people really love, because you also have no nonsense. So I always like, we watch a lot of reality TV, Liza and I, and people who are like, I don't want to be friends, or I tell it how it is. Like, that only works if you're also like a kind person and not just being an asshole.
Yes.
Would you agree, Liza?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I don't want to hear what you have to tell me how it is.
I'm sorry that's how it made you feel.
Yeah.
It's a housewife's apology.
Best apology, yeah.
We should actually just start labeling this slumber party / housewives breakdown like at times.
It's always sprinkled in, you know.
It's
we
always
know
sprinkled
not
in.
it's not everybody's jam. We get it.
We literally, when Bria did her podcast, we talked about housewives for about 15 of the 30 minutes. So it's not that off.
It was the cable. It was the cable guy.
Yes.
Equivalent.
So yeah, it is. Yeah, that's a good one. So you have a warmth about you that people really love, and we were talking the other day about your 3 a.m. rule, and I want you to break it down because I think it's so good. Tell me everything.
Well, my brain works like I need decision trees. I'm a very like when I doubt myself, I need tests or rule of thumbs. So that's how I live my life. And so I was working with somebody, and they're big kid now, I guess. And they were asking me, what if they request this at bedtime? And I said, would that seem like a reasonable request at 3 a.m? And they went, absolutely not. And I said, okay, then don't do it at bedtime. So the way that I like to break it down is a hug and a kiss. That's how my daughter got me. And this is where the rule came from. Mommy, I just need one more hug and a kiss. Your heart breaks. It's 7 p.m. You're like, of course I can give you one more hug and one more kiss. That doesn't matter. I'm awake. We're going to do it. And so you give in and you give the hug and the kiss and whatever. Is that a reasonable request at 3 a.m? No. Let me tell you, it is not. It doesn't sound nearly
What about
as cute.
a tooth hanging out of your mouth?
Okay, so I have I don't like loose teeth. I would probably be like fairly freaked out by it too. It might.
She can't.
She
can't.
So that's what I said. I said, you know what? I peed my pants. I puked. I pooped. I'm sick. I don't feel well. Reasonable at bedtime. Reasonable at 3 a.m. Yeah. I just want one more kiss. I just need a little bit of water. Oh, but I'm really hungry. Nah, no. We don't eat in the middle of the night. Not a reasonable request. So that's my rule of thumb. Yes.
You mentioned food, and I feel like I need to remind folks that, and I say things, but I live these. Like, if I'm really believing it and I say it, it means I do it in my home. Mm-hmm. But I had this piece of advice. So my kids have the opposite problem. You know how you hear about like picky eating? My kids eat everything, and especially they have famine mentality. I did an ancestry DNA test. We do have a lot of Irish genetics, so maybe that's what's happening. But they act like food, if they don't eat it all or if they don't have more on their plate, they're never getting it again. Like my daughter will be like, "Can I have another piece of chicken?" And we're like, "You have 2 pieces on your plate and they're both full. Why don't you just eat that first and see?" So anyways, I've had dieting issues my whole life and body image. I don't want to say anything that's diety, right? But then my issue is more around food waste. She'll take all of this food and then we throw it out, and I hate it. So anyway, the dietitian that I was talking to, her name is Jay Baum, and her company's.
I love her.
Me too.
I've worked with her too.
She's so wonderful. Her company is Palmetto Nutrition, and you can find her on Instagram. She actually created the Halloween candy. Yes. She's amazing. Anyway, find her on Instagram, and you'll love her. But anyway, she was talking about this concept of us offering, and then this idea of having the kitchen closed. So it's you don't get to snack whenever you want. You don't get to eat whenever you want. The kitchen is open and the kitchen is closed. And I actually found that a helpful concept for toddlers who they will delay eating, and then their parents, and then right before bed, they go, "I'm so hungry, but I didn't eat my dinner, Mommy, Daddy." And then the parents are like, "It's okay, I'll make
toddlers, you a 12-year-olds, totally.
Yep. Same. Exactly the same.
That's what he still does that. And I am the kitchen, and it is closed because I'm in bed.
Yeah, you're
And
like,
so-
I'm really
The
sorry.
kitchen is closed. Yeah, we do say that all the time too. It's so important to use that language. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The kitchen is
It's so
closed and
good.
there's a finality to it, and they don't really
Yep.
ask a lot of questions. And my second will do this a lot. Like, she's just a little busy bee, and so she like will forget to eat, and we're like, sit down and eat. And we're like, look, after this, the kitchen is closed and that's that. And she'll eat. But if she's like, I didn't eat enough, we're like, well, I hope you make better choices tomorrow. Like, they're not going to die. And
No.
it's a really important boundary to hold, or else you suddenly find yourself making full meals at 8:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And that happens.
That's
I
when
see
some
it
of us test out their best recipes and then they just got sick of it. That's
Some
where
of
midnight
us,
ramen
yeah.
came from.
And I
Wow.
think you bring a really good point that all of this is tied to your boundaries, right? So if it's not a reasonable request at bedtime, it doesn't matter how much they push, you're still going to stick to your guns and it's not going to be a reasonable request. So we're not going to give
Yeah.
in to that.
Yeah.
As the more that I keep working with children and the more that my own daughter continues to push every single one of my buttons, I realize that part of it and part of what I do when I work with my clients is managing expectations, but also letting go of the things that we can't control. So
Yeah.
we're not going to be able to make them sleep. They will sleep whenever we offer the opportunity, we offer
Yep.
the proper environment to do it, and they will sleep when they're ready. Same
Mhm.
with food. And same with poop. So those three were the surprises
Yes.
of motherhood. You know,
Yeah.
no matter how many times I wanted her to poop in the toilet, she wasn't going to do it until she was ready. And there was absolutely nothing I could do about it. And for us as parents, that's why, you know, like this is the social work part of it. This is the counseling part of it, because we work with the parents just as much as we work with the kids. And it's about letting go of that control. Let go of the fact that we believe that we can make them do what we want. They're little people with emotions, their own thoughts, and their own wants. And it's our job to put boundaries and give them choice within our boundaries. And
100%.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I feel like this is just coming. I actually watched this TikTok like right before we jumped on a call. And it was this like therapist. She was doing a skit, but the gist was, we create narcissistic children or adults who believe that they're entitled to everything. They don't owe anyone anything, when we are constantly giving into their demands and we don't consequence their negative behavior. And it's like everything is on board. And that was like a scary thing for me. Like, I was like, yeah. And
It's a
this
scary
is a
thought.
psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're starting to understand maybe some of the wrongs in really, like, it's essentially called permissive parenting, where there isn't any structure or boundaries. And I mean, this is like a topic for a whole other episode, but folks really need to start investigating some of the reasons why it's really hard for them and what that triggers for them. Because
Yeah.
I think when people hear boundaries or consequences, our immediate thought goes to our 80s parents who didn't know
Yes.
how to regulate their own emotions. There was yelling, there was screaming, there was fighting. But boundaries don't have to be like that. Boundaries in our house are, it's bedtime. I'll see you in the morning. Okay,
Yeah.
good night. It's bedtime. I'm not yelling. No one's raising their voice. No, let me back up. I do yell sometimes. I'm not like this
Yes.
perfect person. But like 9 out of 10 nights, I'm kicking ass without the need to
Yeah.
have to yell or scream. Boundaries and consequences do not mean yelling, screaming, and abuse. But I think that we have a hard time separating the two, and we have to get into the nuance and in kind of minutia of that and what that looks like. And I think that we're getting there. I hope our generation of parents does better than that. Man, I feel like really bad because I've taken up most of this episode talking about my internet connection. But Deanna, as you know, we have a strict crap nap policy on this podcast. We stick to 30 minutes or less. That's intentional. And we are at 20 minutes and 53 seconds. And we know
Wow.
the baby's going to wake any minute now.
Yeah.
So, Deanna, how can people find you? How can they book a call with you? Tell us everything.
So I have my Instagram is at BBS Diana.
BBS underscore
might be
Deanna.
underscore. Yes. See, I knew I was going to get it wrong. I was like, there might be, there might not be. I couldn't remember. You can book me through the BBS page.
Yep.
Just
babiesbestsleep.com.
babiesbestsleeps.com. And yeah, that's me.
You can find all of the consultants through at Baby's Best Sleep. They're all tagged in everything that we do. And that's amazing. Deanna, thank you so much for joining us today. And
thank you for having me.
Here's to good nights of sleep and excellent internet strength to all of you.
And you not being a Karen.
And do not be a Karen. And if you think I'm a Karen, just hold on to that information to yourself. Bye, everyone.